So, could a robot be your next lawyer? I know, it sounds a little like science fiction, right? But believe it or not, AI is already being put to the test on one of the toughest human skills out there, legal reasoning. And, well, the results, they might just surprise you. Okay, so to get a feel for what we're talking about, we threw a classic trademark law question at a top AI model. It's a simple one. You've got the brand name Trim for, you guessed it, nail clippers. Now, the AI's answer. It sounds super confident, doesn't it? Like it absolutely knows its stuff. But, and this is the big but, is it actually right? And nope. Here's where we see this huge gap between the AI's thinking and what the law actually says. The AI called the name suggestive, basically saying you need a little imagination to link the word trim to what the clippers do. But that's just not right. In legal terms, a mark is descriptive if it directly describes the product's function, and trim is a textbook case. A suggestive mark is something that requires a real leap, like Jaguar for a car. It suggests speed and sleekness, but it doesn't describe the car. This isn't just a small mistake, folks. This is a fundamental error, and it really shines a light on a massive challenge for AI in the legal world.
So that leads us to a really critical question. We're all seeing these headlines about AI lawyers, right? Instant legal advice at your fingertips. But when you see an error like this, what folks in the industry call a hallucination, it shows that an AI can be completely wrong, but sound totally sure of itself. So how can we ever really trust them?
I mean, think about it. Before we let an AI draft a contract that could make or break a business or give advice that could literally change someone's life, we've got to have a foolproof way to test it. We need some kind of standardized exam.
And that right there brings us to the main event. A whole team of researchers and legal pros from heavy hitters like Stanford, MIT, and Duke, well, they've gone and created exactly that. It's called LegalBench. And you got to understand, this isn't just some little quiz. It's a massive, collaborative project to build a whole suite of legal problems designed specifically to see what these AI models are really made of.
Yeah, the best way to think about it is like a bar exam, but for bots. It's basically the driver's test for an AI lawyer. We need a way to see if it can handle all the tricky turns and unexpected roadblocks of the legal system before we'd ever dream of letting it take the wheel on a real case.
All right, so Section 3, the ultimate legal test. What does this ultimate legal test even look like? Let me tell you, it is way more than just your standard multiple-choice quiz. We're talking over 160 different tasks packed into LegalBench. It's designed to mirror all the different things a real lawyer does day to day, from analyzing dense contracts to spotting legal issues in a story. To really get how deep this goes, let's zoom in on one really fascinating, really specific example, one that has some serious real-world history. Okay, check this out. I know, it looks like a total wall of text, pure legalese, but buried inside this snippet from a real loan agreement is a super important protection for lenders. And there's a story behind it. It was actually created after the retailer J. Crew found this clever loophole that let them move valuable stuff like their brand name away from where their lenders could get to it.
So, the AI's job is to read this dense paragraph and figure out if it's what lawyers now call a J. Crew blocker. A special clause designed to stop other companies from pulling the same move. So how on earth would it do that?
And this is what makes it so tough. The AI can't just search for keywords like J. Crew. It has to actually understand a two-part legal concept. It has to look for language that either flat out prohibits transferring intellectual property to certain subsidiaries, or it has to find language that says the lender has to give their consent. If it spots either one of those things, bingo, it's found the J. Crew blocker. This is genuine legal reasoning, not just simple pattern matching. All right, Section 4, the AI report card. So, the moment of truth. How did the AIs actually do on their big exam? Well, it's kind of a good news, bad news situation.
Let's take a look at this one chart. This is about identifying hearsay, that tricky rule about out-of-court statements. Now, look at GPT-4 on the standard textbook stuff. 93%. That's really impressive. But when you make it more nuanced, when you ask it to spot a statement that isn't hearsay because of why it's being used, its score drops to 75%. And then look at the older model, GPT 3.5. It just completely tanks down at 33%. It just goes to show that those subtle gray areas in the law are still a huge problem for these models.
And hey, remember that trademark question from the beginning? Even the best model, GPT-4, only got an 85% on that task. I mean, that's a solid B, which is amazing for a machine, right? But would you want a lawyer who's right only 85% of the time?
Probably not, especially when one little mistake could cost you big time. The takeaway here is that even though these AIs are getting better and better, they're still not perfect, not by a long shot.
Okay, Section 5, Law, AI, and Our Future. So why should you care about any of this? Well, because how well these models perform and how well we can test them has massive implications for all of us.
Let's be real. Lawyers are expensive. For a lot of people, they're just too expensive. And that creates a huge problem when it comes to getting justice. I mean, think about it. How many of us just scroll to the bottom and click I agree on a terms of service agreement without reading a single word? We all do it because they're way too long, they're complicated, and who's going to pay a lawyer to read every single one?
But now, imagine an AI that could scan that document in 2 seconds and flag any predatory or unfair clauses for you. That's the dream, right? That's the promise of this technology. It could be a game changer for researchers for sure, but more importantly, it could empower regular people like you and me. But as LegalBench shows us, we're just not there yet. The risk of the AI getting it wrong and being super confident about it is still way too high.
So that kind of leaves us with this final big question. Will your next lawyer be a human or an algorithm? You see, tools like LegalBench are absolutely paving the way for a future where AI is a huge part of the legal world. They give us a scorecard, a way to see how we're doing. So it's not really a question of if AI is coming to law anymore. The real question is when. And maybe more importantly, what grade are we willing to accept from our AI lawyer when our own rights are on the line?